Alright, timestamp. It is.
This Earth technology is confounding me.
There we go. September 9th, 2024. I'm gonna have to lean into it. Where are we? Probably about 7:30. So, Tiny called out from work because he needs those root canals. I'm trying to catch everybody up here real quick. Got his root canal scheduled for Wednesday after referral to a referral to a referral, because a bunch of people don't take Simply and all that. But Wednesday we should have it taken care of. Today's Monday, so that's good. I symptom check, feeling okay. Worked this morning, took a nap. My body kind of woke me up because it's normally time to take Tiny to work. But I didn't take Tiny to work because Tiny didn't go to work. So, definitely going to grab another nap before my next shift. But I definitely need to go to the store because OMG, we needed creamer. Yeah, Alex and I both were on like our last cup of coffee worth of creamer, and that cannot stand. This is world-ending kind of crap right here. So yeah, I picked up some bananas, look pretty good. Happy. Also Doc, not so bashful. Occasionally sneezy. A little sleepy. And my girl at home is both grumpy and loopy. Not like she's, like using or anything like that. But she's sleeping. Gotta explain everything these days. Let's see what else is going on. Did some more damage in the backyard, a little bit. Whatever that tunnel was for, those of you who remember what I'm talking about, with the different rains and whatnot, it has in fact collapsed. So now there's just a big rut, which I will work on fixing, but at the same time, I'm still not sure what. I know that didn't happen because of the weather, so I know that some critter had made a burrow, but I don't see any evidence as to what it was. I'm still really curious as to what life form had created a home there. Friendly, not friendly, I don't know. That's beyond my ranger skills. I'm a bard. I picked up some ranger skills, but I'm a bard. Animals like me, plants like me. That's about where it ends. So yeah, got a headache. It's pretending like it wants to storm, and I get sinus headaches. I'm wishing that it would go ahead and do it. Please, rain. That would feel great. I don't know if I mentioned this in one of my last things. I talked to my mom the other day, and I don't think I did, because this is in-depth conversation stuff, unless I'm losing my mind as well. And I did talk about it, which maybe I did. Maybe I am. So, when I talked to my mom the other day, she was at the VA with Dad. I'm not sure if I did this or not. And okay, so going back in time, about a 3 months ago, my dad did this weird thing, and I had it on the Ring cameras, which I think that's one of the reasons my mom didn't like the fact that I had Ring cameras like in the living room and dining room at their place. And I kept explaining to them that, look, you guys are now in your 80s, you both had 2 strokes each. If y'all need help or die, it would be nice if I knew about it. That would be cool. Since you guys aren't going to necessarily call for help while you're on the floor. They were like, well, we want our privacy, but we want security too. It's like, you can't have both. You can't have both. Ask anybody in the security industry. You can have privacy or you can have security. You can have a mix of the two, but you can't have 100% of both. You can't. That's not how that works. You know, ask the president. You know, he's got 95% security and 5% privacy. You know, there's an armed guard outside his bedroom. At least if the West Wing is to be believed, and I think it's probably pretty accurate. Anyway, so my dad was in for his primary, which is when I called. But to go back a year and change, it was probably May last year, 2023. My dad had this weird episode. I don't even know how to describe it. He was watching TV. He had the recliner pulled way up close to the TV, and it was middle of the night. He was kind of sleeping, and he stood up and started like mumbling about his foot stuck in wood, and he was like struggling to move his feet, and it looked like his foot might have been under the entertainment center, but we weren't sure looking at the footage, and it was hard to tell if he was like awake, sleeping, you know, like walking nightmare kind of thing. And then he just kind of collapsed in the chair. The doctor said that they didn't think it was a stroke, but they weren't sure what the hell it was. So that's important information. My mom called the ambulance, 911, and they grabbed him and took him to the hospital. And he spent a few days in there. During that time, he did not impress people with his cognitive abilities, in the respect of, at one point, he was standing in the bathroom of his room, and when the nurse came in, he asked the nurse where the bathroom was. Tell me again how he's fine. You know what I mean? Sometimes my mom frustrates me on this stuff. Tell me again how he's okay. On another occasion, he didn't like his bed, so he wandered down the hall and found a bed in an unused room and slept there. And I guess caused a little bit of panic with the staff because he wasn't where he was supposed to be. But that bed was more comfortable than the bed he had. I don't know this, but I'm pretty sure that all the beds are the same. There's no Goldilocks scenario here. Again, he's fine. So, okay, so they didn't know if he had a stroke, they didn't know what to think. They kept him about a week, sent him home. But they did prescribe some stuff for him. That's the important part of the story right there. They put him on some drugs. So he went into his newer primary that he hasn't really seen, even though he's had this primary since January. Remember that y'all aren't taking this seriously thing? In September. He got his new primary in January. Yeah, I think it might be time for an 83-year-old guy that's had 2 strokes to check in with his primary. 9 months after his new primary was assigned to him. Yeah. Yeah, well, we could wait a year. So, yeah, you can tell I'm frustrated, right? The doc, I guess, looked over his file, all the different, because they ask you what medications are you on. And one of the medications that he was on is for Alzheimer's. It's a medication that's prescribed for Alzheimer's patients. My dad hasn't been diagnosed with anything in the dementia field. We know that he has COPD. We know that he had strokes and some various things happened, but he doesn't have it on his file anymore. So the doc was like, well, he shouldn't be on this if he's not diagnosed. And I guess he gave him the 2 pieces of one of the cognitive tests, which, I think there's a 10 question, there's a 20 question, there's some verbal things you can do as non-written, yada de yada. That's French, I believe. So he did the clock test, which is where you basically draw a clock. And this is all according to my mom. He did okay. And they did the 3-word recollection test. I don't know what it's actually called, but the thing that Trump was talking about, man, woman, camera. And I love that he thinks it's an IQ test. There's just so much ironic hilarity here, because that's not part of an IQ test. That is part of a cognitive decline test. That was to see if you had dementia. I'm so glad that you're proud that you passed it. Please lead us all. Anyway, enough of that. Enough of that. So I guess the words were man, woman, chair. The gist is the doc's going to tell you man, woman, chair. Later on in our conversation, I'm going to ask you to repeat those words, see if you can remember them. And I might do it again 1 or 2 more times, just to see what your recollection is. And I guess my dad responded with man, woman, shay, which the doc, according to my mom again, said, well, because my dad misheard him, because he has hearing issues, he didn't hear him properly. That's what he thought that the doctor had said, was man, woman, shay. Here's where that falls apart. This is my mom saying the doc said that he was, okay, he misheard it. Okay, fine, that's fine. He passed. I think the doc's lying to him. And here's why. Because my dad would get agitated. I know, because I've told him to his face, you have Alzheimer's, and he got very angry. I get it. You don't want to hear the truth. I get it. The reason you can't remember things 5 minutes ago is you have Alzheimer's. The reason you're getting mad at me right now is you have Alzheimer's. These are actually all symptoms. Your denial of Alzheimer's is a symptom of Alzheimer's. That really is, I know I've mentioned that before. That really is kind of just a bummer. The denial of it is a symptom of it. Oh, what a cruel joke. Anyway, typically with the word test, again, I don't know what the actual name for it is. The doctor will pick out items that are visible in the room and even point to them. That's usually how this test rolls. So he will point at my dad and say, man, look at my mom, woman, and he will point to what my dad is resting on and say, chair. So the idea that he didn't hear him correctly falls apart a little bit there, because more than likely my dad understood the concept of the thing that you are on currently is a chair, and that is the 3rd word. So that's my thought there. Now, the doctor did say, look, just to be sure, because he did okay on these tests, and I still think that he's kind of snowing my parents on that one. And you know what? I commend you for what you're doing, because I think I know what you're doing. He's sending him to the memory clinic to have a standard couple hours of testing. Because everybody gets sent for a couple hours of testing at the memory place, if I recall correctly. So, my mom is, because the doc said, he did fine, my mom is like, I don't think he has Alzheimer's. And it's like, Mom, he started hallucinating 6, 7, 8 years ago, according to what you said. Like seeing people in your house that weren't there. Remembering conversations that never took place. Those were symptoms then. He's had it this whole time. And she asked me, she's like, well, where would you say he is? And I said, well, if you want my honest opinion, if you're doing the 3-stage graph, he's in mid-stage working, checking off boxes. He's checked off all the boxes in first stage. He has checked off most of the boxes in mid-stage, which is to say we are now approaching end stage. That's just reality. That's just reality. We are approaching end stage. If you're using the 7-stage graph, he checks off everything 1 through 3, almost all of 4, almost all of 5. Which is to say, we're approaching end stage. He's tying up all the loose ends of mid-stage right now. He's tying them all up in a pretty disgusting little bow. But because the doc said, we can find. My mom is kind of like, well, maybe he doesn't. Yeah, you can just. I wish that were true. Man, I wish that were true. But you're fooling yourself. And I think on some level you know that. I think on some level she knows that. So, and she was like, what happens if he gets diagnosed? I said, well, if he gets diagnosed, he gets diagnosed. The good side of this is, and this is something that Pix and I have been pushing for a year. He's a veteran. He's a disabled veteran. Agent Orange apparently messed him up. Which, big shocker. That stuff apparently, according to rumor, wasn't great. The way I explained it to my mom is, if he's just an old guy that was in the Army, he does get some benefits. And I don't mean just as into belittle service. I mean if he is an old guy with Alzheimer's and ex-Army, that opens up some doors. There are certain places that he could get treated at, admitted to, that he won't get to go to, that would be better for him if he's just an old guy. She seemed to kind of understand where I was going there, and she actually brought up a story from the family background, as it were. My dad was the chief engineer at the Wonder Bread plant in downtown Tampa for 17 years, 20 years, I don't know, a while. Again, when I said he's brilliant, he's brilliant. He redesigned some of this is equipment that bakes, 100 loaves a second kind of stuff. He redesigned some of the equipment down there to be more efficient, to be more practical, to be faster, to not break down as well. He was in his prime. He was in demand. There were other baking corporations that were trying to acquire him because he had made such improvements with the bakery there. And people talk. So he had guys in his department, under his command. One of the guys' name was, and these are all engineers, mechanics. One of the guys' names was Scotty. Not kidding. It makes me giggle a little bit. He had a guy named Scotty who was an engineer. Of course he was. Hi, what are you thinking? So this actually has a sad ending to it. I shouldn't make jokes. Scotty, a lot of these guys worked with my dad for years and years and years, and they were old men at the end of it. And Scotty got sent to, he had apparently Alzheimer's, some form of dementia, and he got sent to a nursing home, retirement. This is your final stop, kind of thing. And these are clever men. These are clever men who have worked with their hands and their brain and tools their entire lives. He broke out. They didn't even realize he was gone until he had been gone for hours. They found him a couple days later. He had wandered into a lake or stream or something nearby and drowned. So, and I knew him. He was a good guy. He was a very nice man. That story, while horrific, actually helps our situation in that it may help my mom understand, because that was just a regular nursing home. That wasn't a nursing home, for genius people with Alzheimer's. So that, I think, helped my mom, because she remembered that and she told me that story. And I'd heard it before, but I think that reinforced the idea of maybe getting him diagnosed isn't such a bad thing. Because if we do need to do those kind of things, if we do need to push those kind of buttons, we need those doors open to us. If those doors are closed because we didn't do due diligence and get him diagnosed, well, my dad winds up in a lake. Anyway. I have an insulated bag in the back seat, but I should probably get that creamer home. Anyway. Trying to catch everybody up. Make it a great day.